Hi, welcome everybody. Just like politics and religion, the coronavirus global pandemic is a polarizing topic. And since it's affected all of us in different ways, there's no real right or wrong answer to how one should feel about the world post-COVID-19. Personally, I believe there's going to be three categories of consumers post-COVID. One, you're going to have people that will continue to social distance and shelter, either out of fear or necessity. Two, people will want to open the country as fast as possible and regain their liberties. And then three, where I personally feel the vast majority are going to fit somewhere in the middle. They abide by local ordinances while they still care for their family and others. With me today are James Keoughan, Realtor and Group Leader of the Keoughan Group of Allie, Beth, Allman and Associates, Betty Grant of Foto Group, Alexis Sparkles Belt of Green Scene Home Inspections, and Jamie Walk, attorney at Chicago Title. I personally served alongside these great Dallas-Fort Worth real estate professionals, and I'm excited to discuss the home buying and selling process post-COVID for all three categories of professionals. So before we begin, let's have our panelists share a brief overview of what they do. James, let's start with you.
Thank you, Ron, for inviting me to this topic. And I am a real estate agent. I've been a real estate agent in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for 18 years. I serve a wide variety of price points. I live kind of in the middle of what we call the Metroplex here, close to the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. The homes range in price in my area here from 400 to close to 2 million. So here to help buyers and sellers in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. And again, thank you for allowing me to be on here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Now we have Betty from Foto Group.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Ron, for inviting me to this quorum today. It is a learning experience for all of us, that's for sure, and something we've never experienced. At least I haven't in business. But we've been in business almost 5 years now. I deal with a range of agents, anywhere from entry-level homes, $60,000 and up, all the way to multi-million-dollar luxury properties. And we are a full-service real estate photography group, and we're here to serve everybody in between. And I look forward to this discussion. I think it'll help all of us in how to deal with various customers in all three groups. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Sparkles, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, yes, good day. Thank you for having me, Ron. I'm Sparkles Belt with Green Scene Home Inspections. We have been in business 10 years as of 2019. And what's great about us during this global pandemic is that we are the only home inspectors in the DFW that do a video inspection. So what's great for that is, in addition to your written report, which anyway, a lot of people kind of get scared off because of the language that they don't understand, and especially in Texas with the cracks and soil and all of that stuff that they don't get. We do a video presentation as well. So we get all the pictures together, and the inspector does a voiceover and helps walk you through and talk you through exactly what you're looking at, everything that was included on the day of the inspection, and just kind of helps talk your buyers off the ledge, and just it makes everything a little bit more relatable. And with that, you don't have to be at the inspection. So that's super great. That's us.
Fantastic. Jamie.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. Glad to be with you guys. Jamie Walk with Chicago Title. I'm one of the attorneys over there. We, as the name implies, we close commercial and residential real estate transactions in the state of Texas and across the country. So all of our residential businesses here in Texas, and then we do commercial stuff all over the country. So been practicing law since about 2004, but we are a direct operation of Chicago Title. We are not an agency our own branch. We're a direct operation of Chicago Title, have offices all over the Metroplex, and actually have worked with all of you guys. So looking forward to today's discussion. Thanks. Fantastic,
Jamie. Thank you. Really appreciate that. So before we get into the program, let's talk about the home buying process pre-COVID. So James, you're a realtor. Tell us a little bit about how people went about buying homes all the way back in 2019.
So yes, before this global pandemic, it's kind of been a transition over the last several years where people would find homes driving through neighborhoods They would talk to their friends or family. They would talk to a local real estate agent to find a property. Then as we got into the internet-based web searches for real estate, a lot of people started looking at homes online. The pictures ranged from, using an iPhone to using someone like Epic Photo Group, very high-end professional photographs. A little bit of video here and there, but not as much. And again, technology has come, and we've added different components to marketing the properties through video and through a service called Matterport, which allows you to walk through a property room by room and kind of stop down and do a 360 look of the property. But for the most part, folks would go either into open houses, or they would call an agent that they've either met or have someone referred them to them, and they would say, hey, I would like to go see 123 Main Street. Could you set up an appointment for us to go take a look at it? And so then you would call a showing service, or you'd call the agent who had it listed, schedule a time to go take a look at it, and then we would either meet them there, or we would drive together, maybe meet at the office, get in a car and go look at either that house or multiple houses. That typically happened in the evenings or on weekends. If folks were in town for relocation, they might be here for 2 or 3 days. So it's kind of a marathon where you went and saw a lot of houses so that they had plenty to look at and choose from. So before COVID-19, yes, we were running around town in typically the same car, and that provided the opportunity for us to get to be, to develop rapport with our clients, and for our clients to share their desires of a home that they're looking for in more detail than maybe an initial call that we would have had to discuss, what type of property they're looking for. So that's what we used to do prior to COVID-19.
Excellent. Really appreciate that. So let's talk about the first category. So these are folks that they're going to continue to shelter in place. They want to buy a home, but either out of fear or necessity, they're not able to go to open houses and look at homes. So we want to talk about creating a comfortable process for these types of buyers. So one thing I'll share here is the following. So let's go into this part. So it starts when you are looking to buy a home, you need to start the pre-approval process, right? So what that means is you meet with a lender, and historically, it actually meant that you went to the office, and James, you'll remember this, right? You went to the office, you filled out what's known as a 1003, an application, and the lender went through, and they had to be very, very precise because it was a physical document, and write in those little squares all of the information about the homeowner. And then from there, you went through, and as a loan officer, we went through and we did all the calculations, and we gathered all of the documents, and it was a physical binder, right? So it was actually stacked where we would have assets, we have income, we would have credit, and that physical binder was then given to an underwriter, and then it would start the process. Well, now everything's digital. And what's great about this is we were digital. So I work with Guaranteed Rate. I'm licensed in California and Texas. 558-706 is my NMLS number. And when I work now, and ever since joining Guaranteed Rate, we've always had this digital process. So when I meet with the client for the first time and take their information, I can either have a call with them and get their general information, fill out some basic information, run their credit, and then I send them that to-do list, or I could just send them my link and they can apply on their own. So that's the whole piece here you can see with the digital mortgage. Now, once I have reviewed their credit, everything looks good, I'll send them that to-do list. And that to-do list, it will include, I need your past 2 years of tax returns. I need 30 days of your pay stubs. I need a statement of your assets. So all this information about their overall financial picture. So the client can then just upload those. They have them handy as a PDF, and then they then send that to me. So everything is completely digital. It really helps streamline the process, and it minimizes paperwork. And in this particular case, it minimizes having to scan a bunch of documents, put them in the mail, and risk anybody who is susceptible to COVID going to a FedEx or a post office or anything else. So it just makes it really quick and efficient. Account check. This is a service that we offer. If anyone has used Mint before, it's a way where clients can just enter in their account information, and it pulls down a transaction history. So we don't have access to their account. We're not going to be making deposits, but it's a way where we're able to just download that transaction history to make the process seamless. Because in a loan, the underwriter is going to want a transaction history in the beginning, the middle, and at the end. When we send out our disclosures, so when we start a loan, and because of TRID, so the TILA-RESPA Integrated Disclosures Act, we as loan officers have to send out initial disclosures. Well, it used to be where you had to hand sign 60 pages of documents for all of these disclosures. Now it's just DocuSign. So my clients, they're filling it out on their phone, they're filling it on their computer. It's really simple, takes 2-3 minutes, but it allows us to get through these processes very, very quickly. And from there, we also have these other pieces. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share here and really get into, let's talk about virtual showings. So James and Betty, let's talk a little bit about, you've got a buyer and they need to look at homes, and how are people doing that now under the circumstances if they can't go to an open house? So I'll just have James and Betty talk about that.
So I'll start, Betty, because your services and your tools that you provide me, I think, so I'll start. So today, now that we're in COVID-19, the local governments have put up certain requirements for showings. It was very tight in March and April about how you could go about even showing. In some counties, you couldn't show at all. And then the state came out and said that we were an essential business and that we needed to go out and still do a real estate transaction. So we had to figure out, okay, how am I going to take a buyer and get them into this home during all this craziness and crisis? So I use a service that Betty provides, Epic Photo provides, called Matterport. They also have the ability to do a video of the home where you can you'll watch the video and it's 30 seconds to a minute of walking through the property. But this Matterport allows you to stop down into different rooms and really look at the property in detail rather than a video, which you've got a minute to walk through the entire property. The Matterport allows you to stop, turn the screen towards a particular item, maybe the kitchen countertop, and say, oh, is that granite? What kind of granite is that? Or is that quartz? So it allows the consumer to really look at the property in more detail, where a video doesn't allow you to do that because you've got that 1 minute shot and you probably miss 50% of the house. As we were in the midst of the COVID-19, I had a couple of buyers that were, ready to go. They were pre-approved. They had looked at homes. They had come down from wherever they were, Chicago and Virginia, on these particular two clients that I had. And so they were somewhat familiar with the areas. And so I was feeding them properties that were coming on the market through a portal that they're able to look at the photos. And so both of them found properties that they liked, but were not in a position to fly down to go look at those because we were all in kind of shelter in place. So I went out and, these folks didn't have video. They didn't have Matterport. It was just these static photos. So I took my phone and went into the properties, with masks and gloves and booties. And I used FaceTime to go through the property. And so I was there, and if they said, well, what kind of countertop is that? Then I could go over to the countertop with my phone and take a look at it. So both of those folks bought these homes and never set foot in them until they closed, which was highly unlikely to ever happen prior to COVID-19. Most people really wanted to go into the home. But I think in today's age of Amazon, where people are buying products online, now, buying a toothbrush on Amazon, for a couple of dollars is a lot different than buying a $500,000 property without ever stepping or ever seeing it in person. But I think with the fact that they trusted me, I really connected with these folks, and they trusted me to, provide them with the information that they would feel comfortable in buying the property before ever seeing it. And so I think that allowed them to feel comfortable. But all of my properties, I'm having this Matterport done, and I'll let Betty talk about that, but it has been a great product and service to provide the consumers that don't feel comfortable going into the property, that now they can really get a good feel for what's going on inside and outside, the property. So Betty, if you want to take over.
Hi. Very good, James. You did that well. Prior to COVID, Matterport has been around for a number of years, and many other 3D dimensional photography, which we do multiple platforms, but nobody talked about it. It was a service that was available. It was a service that was an occasional, whether it was somebody that just wanted to try it because they never saw it, so we'd get a phone call, or it was held to be in a different level of buyer or seller for the agent, wanting it to be in a different level of property, I guess, meaning by the price point, or maybe where they wanted to be at as far as demonstrating. So our array of agents or homeowners that ordered Matterport prior to COVID is completely different than what it is today. James has used it many times prior to COVID because he saw the benefit of it and what it could give his clients and his buyers, future buyers. Today, it's an everyday conversation. So our business is an uptick by far, astronomically over what we could ever imagine, but just not on Matterport, on any 3D service, whether it's Zillow, whether it's Cloud Pano, video, whatever it is intensely higher than it ever was. But we also, and I think I shared this with Ron earlier, a link, I have a builder that has changed his way of doing business because he doesn't have people any longer coming to the job sites or can't get out and about that are building custom homes. He's hired us to come in and Matterport when it's still prior to sheetrock and insulation. Exactly. So he gives this to his custom buyers or his custom homes. This is going to be like $1 million home when it's finished. But he's able to support this to his potential clients going forward to what he builds. And there's a 4-step process to this. So it's not just about the homeowner at James level wanting to see, but it's also come to a new level, which is now a builder. We've had builders in the past, but they've never quite went to this degree. They usually end up like where James is at, and they're already finished. And he's showcasing a home that is already in full production. They can move in, they can demonstrate, where the granite is or whatever in an already made home. So what we've noticed now that we're in COVID as opposed to prior COVID is a whole different language of what people are wanting for their 3D services, whether it's video, whether it's fly-in drone work, whatever it may be, is completely different than what it ever was 4 months ago, 5 months ago. So it's just a new technology that's taken, it's not new technology, it's just expanded to different areas.
Betty, I really appreciate that. I agree. I think it's one of those things where I think it was really reserved as a nice to have pre-COVID, and you definitely saw it on the $1 million listings. But now you're seeing it across all different price points, right? So you're seeing it at, I just had a buyer where they did a contingency sale. And a contingency sale is you have a situation where you have a buyer that needs to sell their current home and then go buy a new home. And they had their listing, the home they were leaving was $200,000. And they actually had a 3D walkthrough on a $200,000 home as a listing. And for them, because they had a family that was susceptible to COVID, they did not allow anybody inside the property. They had to make all of the offers, and the only time they would be able to visit was when the offer was accepted, and the family, they left, and the agent walked through. And James, you could talk about that, right? So with your experience, right now, if you're showing a home to somebody, you've got to open up all the doors and the drawers and all that kind of stuff. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So to show a house today, weekend before Memorial Day weekend, I had a client come in from Chicago, and we looked at 31 homes in about 24 hours. We were in a house about every 12 minutes. So it was pretty crazy. They were very cautious, and they provided their own masks, their own gloves, and I gave them booties to wear just because that's what they would feel comfortable. So we had 31 properties that we looked at. Every one of them had, they were kind of in these different buckets. And some of the homeowners that we went in to look at the properties, they wanted us to wear all of that protective devices, the face mask, the gloves, and the booties. Then there were some folks that just wanted us to wear a face mask and sanitize our hands. And then we had some homeowners that were like, they had no instructions at all. So we could have walked in, naked, I guess, if we wanted to. But anyway, they were all over the place. But we felt that, okay, we're going to go look at all these homes. Let's protect ourselves, and let's protect those homeowners, because we're going to be in all these different properties in a matter of a day. So we were very methodical about, okay, we showed up, they drove in their own car, I drove in my car. We wore face masks as soon as we got out of the vehicles. We put on our gloves, and then when we got to the door, we would put on our booties, our shoe covers. And then, after I would go in and turn on all the lights. Several of the showings requested that only the agent touch anything. So I would open up drawers and closets and the garage door, and I'd open the back door in a lot of these situations. And so that way they knew that there was only one person who was touching them. And I made sure that my client, if they were going to go off into a room, I said, hey, if there's something there that you want me to open, please let me know, and I'll come and open that drawer or open that door. And then they would leave, and then I would go around the house, shutting everything off. And then I gave them hand sanitizer so that when they got back to their car, they went ahead and sanitized their gloves and their hands. And so that the next house that we would go to, they were clean for the most part to go into the next property. And so that's been the process today of how you go about showing a property.
Sounds like quite an ordeal. 31 homes going through that whole process. It's a whole nother world, but there are people that need to buy and sell real estate. So that's really why we're here today. Now let's get into Sparkles. Talk to us. We now have an accepted offer, and we're now moving into the home inspection process. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up what you've got here. with your slides, talk to us a little bit about the video inspection and how that all works and the benefit for consumers.
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Ron. So prior to COVID-19's global pandemic and the shelter-in-place orders, how a home inspection worked is once your offer was accepted on the home, we would go in and we would do an inspection of the house, and we would look at every single crack and crease and nook and cranny inside and out of the house and write a written report and our video inspection and send it off to the home buyer so that, like I said earlier, they know exactly what condition the house is in, so they kind of have an idea of what they're walking into if they do want to end up purchasing that home. Today, we're lucky that we've been doing it since we started in 2009. So we're the experts on it, as well as being the only company in the DFW that does the video inspections. But like I said earlier, what happens is we go in and we look at everything, and we take 1 million pictures of every nook and cranny inside and out. And we'll put that together in a video compilation of all those pictures, and we'll have the inspector kind of do a voiceover and walk you through each photo to explain exactly what you're looking at. It makes it super relatable to the client. It helps them understand what they're looking at so that they don't just read this crazy real estate licensed language report that they don't know what it's really saying, and it just looks scary, and they're like, I'm going to need to see 30 more houses, James, thanks. So it kind of just helps talk things down a little bit. But what's great about that right now is that you don't have to go to the inspection. Prior to COVID-19 global pandemic, you had to go. You didn't have to, but most people preferred to go to the inspection after the inspector was finished so that they could kind of have a presentation and talk through everything with the inspector in person. Now, in addition to our safety protocols, which are the masks, the booties, the gloves, the hand sanitizer, we don't touch anything unless we absolutely have to. A lot of times the sprinkler systems are smart systems, so we'll have the listing agents text their sellers so that they can just run them from their phone so we don't have to touch anything and all of that stuff. So we follow all those safety protocols, and we highly encourage when you're scheduling the inspection to not attend. So you've got those people that are category 1 that are the buyers that they're immune compromised, or they're just afraid, or they just are taking all these precautions. They don't want to be there. They're not going to do it. So we've got that video. Again, it helps them kind of put themselves in the space and understand what they're looking at without having to risk themselves exposure of infection and all of that stuff, and just kind of keeps it socially distanced, if you will.
Excellent. And James, want to share a little bit more?
Yes. So I use Greenstein for inspections and have been using them for quite a while. And the thing about the video inspection for clients that are coming from another part of the country, let's say someone lives in Southern California and is relocating here, they'll come in town to pick the property, right, to see the property in person and write the offer and hopefully get it accepted prior to them leaving. But they're typically only here for a couple of days, and then they have to fly back home or where they're at to go back to work or to go get the kids back into school or whatnot. So the video inspection really was a benefit for folks that were relocating into town because they couldn't be here to go back to the house and be there with the inspector so the inspector could point out the different things that he was concerned about or wanted to bring to their attention. So the video conference was a great solution for that so that they could actually go and hear the voiceover about what is this particular picture showing and why are you showing it to me? Before, in the written reports, we would just have a photo dropped in there, and then it was left up to the consumer. Certainly there was a description underneath, but it was kind of left up to the consumer to decipher what the inspector was trying to say here. Or you would have to reach out to the inspector who was probably on an inspection and ask him what he's referring to in this picture. Now with the video, he's able to actually explain what's going on and why am I concerned about it, or why is the inspector concerned about it, and why are they bringing attention to it. Today, because of COVID-19 and the fact that we're trying to limit personal contact, the video inspection is a great asset to have to now provide that service to all of the inspections that are going on for consumers today, so that they don't have to go back into the home. The sellers feel better about that they've only got one or maybe two people at the property, not a whole group of people that are sitting around touching stuff. So I think the sellers feel more comfortable with that, and the buyers certainly feel comfortable with that, because now they're able to, in the comfort of their own home, watch this video and understand what's going on with the home and where are their concerns. So again, the service that Green Scene provides is great for that reduction in personal contact.
That's a really great point. When my wife, she actually bought an investment property, I attended the inspection, but then for a client reason, I had to leave, and they were able to really fill in the gaps. When I went back and I looked at the video report, they were able to, in the video report, just point out here's what's going on in the laundry room. And this is why, with a little bit of some cosmetic fixes, this is something that you can be comfortable moving forward with. So it was incredibly helpful to have that context. If I was just reading through it, I think people, if you think about it, why video is so important is because it activates all the senses, right? You get to see people, you connect with them over a camera. It's not just reading. And that's what's really important. You really get a good idea, and they're not just talking, where it's talking heads. They actually are filming what they're talking about. So if it's a hose that connects to something with the laundry room, then they're actually showing the hose. So I think that's incredibly important. Now, let's talk a little bit about, from an appraisal standpoint, in addition to the professionals that have done an incredible job in really creating this path where people that are susceptible to COVID, that they can, buy a property where everybody's taking the proper precautions. The government has done an incredible job too. So typically when you would buy a home, you would have an appraiser. They would they would schedule an appointment with the seller. So this is where the seller is the one that's going to be at the home. They open the home, they would go walk through the property, take pictures, and then they would go back and they would do all of their comps. So they would look at comparable sales, and then they put together their report. Well, now because of COVID, you have a situation where you certainly don't want to hurt the seller, but you also want the appraiser. There's only so many appraisers out there, so we want to make sure that all real estate professionals are safe in the process. So what the government has done is they have instituted appraisal waivers. So in certain cases, and especially when it comes to looking at refinances, if the borrower has enough equity in the home, then Fannie and Freddie on a conforming loan, they will just waive the appraisal. So as lenders, we put in the estimated value. And when we run an automated underwriting system, so you can see that right there where it says appraisal waiver, it'll actually show up on the report where it says PIW. So it just means that they're waiving the appraisal. That means I don't have to charge the client for an appraisal. It's a fantastic system. And again, it streamlines the process, but it also really helps from a limit physical contact. In addition, for those that we can't get an appraisal waiver, we are now able to do desktop appraisals. So if we've got a purchase and it's Fannie and Freddie, we no longer require appraisers to actually visit the actual property. They can do what's known as a desktop appraisal. So what they're doing is they're actually just pulling up the data on their side and creating that report. Now, there are certain cases and certain lenders that go beyond a desktop appraisal. They actually need to have physical pictures of the property. So we've kind of developed this hybrid system where we will contact the seller and the appraiser will contact the seller, and they'll work with them on FaceTime. So they will say, okay, I want you to take a picture of the kitchen. And while they're taking a picture of the kitchen, the sellers are now really getting into that pride of ownership. And they're talking about, oh, we did this great renovation, and this is the, what we were able to do with the island, and, have all this amazing marble. So now we have that ability where we're getting those appraisers are getting even more depth of what the home is all about. And, certainly these things, if someone does a big home renovation, that influences the value. So, people that are concerned about, oh, if you do a desktop appraisal or you do this virtual appraisal, will you still have the value? Well, it's up to the seller, right? So it's up to the seller and the listing agent to provide that color and being able to have that communication with the appraiser. I think that's really important. And James, I want your opinion on that, of what you're seeing, and have you seen any of these desktop appraisals or that virtual hybrid appraisal? Are you having any concerns, or what's your feedback?
Your description of how the appraisal process went before is true, and I'm glad that the lenders are coming up with these newer solutions to limit the contacts. And so I think it's a great idea, and great that they're using the tools that are available to us to go do these appraisals. And the waiving the appraisal, as long as they have a certain amount of equity that they're going to be putting into the property, I think speeds up the process and kind of gets over one of the hurdles. That's kind of the second biggest hurdle we have to deal with. Is first it's the inspection, and second it's the appraisal. And really the third thing there in that bucket is today is the consumer still employed? And then is there any issues with the property from a title perspective? And certainly Jamie can talk to us about that. But we go through this process. It's, getting it under contract, doing the inspection, getting the appraisal done, making sure the consumer is completely qualified, and then we go through the closing process. And so if we're reducing or making that, sorry about the dog, when we're worried about the appraisal being one of the issues, then that is certainly something that if we're going to reduce that or do things a little differently, I think that's going to help us move the process along, getting these homes under contract and closed in a timely manner.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a good segue. Jamie, you're in title. Tell us, what is title? And knowing that you have a buyer that doesn't feel comfortable just going to the title office and signing their loan documents, what does that process look like now?
Well, title is by far the most fun part of this whole process, for sure. I'm sure you guys will all agree. No, I'm just kidding. Most of my days
to the end, man.
we are the finish line, so we find ourselves to be involved in the transaction from start to finish, and that's great. But while most of my days kind of spent talking with real estate agents and lenders, trying to keep deals on the rails, our teams are working hard behind the scenes to make sure that we're pulling title, we're clearing any title issues that may be part of the transaction that may be related to the property or to the seller. But at its essence, we are here to protect owners and lenders against adverse ownership claims, improperly recorded documents, fraud, forgery, things of that nature. And our goal is just to minimize the risk to the parties that someone else may come make a claim to that property. One of the ways we do that is obviously verifying who the folks are that are signing the documents. And so with pre-COVID, it was easy. Everyone would just come to the office. We'd check their IDs and sign them up and notarize the docs and get the docs back to the lender who has final approval. Things have changed a little bit. We've been doing mobile notaries a lot. And I don't know how much you want to go into this now, or if you want to talk about the closing process later. But
this is your time to shine, Jamie. So you certainly go through the different processes, and I could share that screen where we talk about that. So
sure. Yeah. And lastly, our goal is to, try to do this as seamless as possible. Most, if not all of what we do can be done without having person-to-person contact. Thanks to the internet, phones, and scanners, and everybody's got whoever has a phone now has a scanner. So getting documents back and forth is really easy for us. So you're bringing those slides up now. Yeah, they may have to. There we go. Yeah, let's just go to the next one. Yeah, so like I said, most of this happens via email. Let's go to that second slide there. Most of this stuff happens via email. So we have DocuSign, which agents have been using forever. We have DocuSign. So if there's something that we as the title company need signed, we can get that signed. Obviously, FedEx is still running. They're still dropping off packages to my house every day along with UPS. So I know they're still working hard. So we can send FedEx labels out for earnest money, option money to be going back and forth to the parties. We've been asked, I get asked this question a lot, if PayPal and Venmo can be used for option fees. I don't care how you get them the money. We just need the option fee receipt. So whatever makes sense to you guys, Zelle, I've seen it kind of done any and all ways. But our closings generally are taking place. We aren't allowing, not allowing, we're discouraging folks from coming into our office, and that's really to protect our team, because we need our team to be functioning at a high efficiency, because actually the orders are through the roof right now, actually, on the residential side for sure. So we've been very, very busy, and we need to keep all of our folks healthy. So any closings that are happening at our office are happening actually outside of our office space in common areas. But generally what people are doing is they're calling when they pull up. We're providing them all of the instructions prior to close date. And we'll either run out and grab the earnest money or the option fee, and then come close date, they can sign in their vehicles. So that we're calling those drive up closings. Certainly happy to send a mobile notary to your home or to your work or to your favorite dining location. And then, there's the dog theme. I'll keep the dog theme, James. We're 2 for 2. The last one is the remote online notaries, which Ron, you and I have done a couple of those now, and those have gone very, very well. So the things with mobile notaries, these folks are all vetted prior to sending them out. We vet them. We make sure they're bonded and insured. We are trying to provide the best closing experience, so we want to make sure we're using people that we're familiar with. This is probably preferred by title companies just because we've vetted them, and the process is quick and again allows folks to close efficiently. The RON, the remote online notary, is something that's that you guys have been actually way ahead of the curve on. There's a lot of lenders out there that haven't gotten those processes approved yet. You guys have done a really good job of vetting all of that stuff. I think you guys were already in the process of that, or having done that kind of at the end of 2019. So from a timing standpoint, you guys look like geniuses, because when it came time to do that, you guys were already ready. You guys had already run your processes through our team, because we obviously have other interests as far as protecting everyone. So you guys had vetted that with your team. It then came to our information folks. They vetted it, worked through any kinks they had, and then so we were approved to close remote online notaries with you guys. So, and that is 100% touchless. It's just all online. So there's lots of options for those folks, regardless of which side of the spectrum you're on. We can take care of you and continue to hopefully serve and close quickly and efficiently. So,
Jamie, really appreciate that, and appreciate the shout out. Guaranteed rate, we are a mortgage bank, and because all we do are originate mortgages, we need to make sure that we have as streamlined and as efficient as process as possible. We're technology forward, and we, as you mentioned, we've been doing this for years and really building up. And when you have a situation where you need a shelter in place and you have to limit physical distancing, all those technology tools really allows you to pick up and be able to handle lots of volume. We have essentially broken all records this year from origination of loans. And in order to do that, you have to make sure that you have the technology behind it. Just real quick, Jamie was talking about remote online notarization. It's a real easy acronym, Ron, to remember. The idea there is, so I had a client where we were doing a refi and I was working with Jamie. So we send the docs over, so the loan documents to Jamie. Jamie assembles them, sends them to this remote online notary. Then my borrower, they meet via webcam and they show their driver's license up at the screen and they verify the person. They sign a document saying, online obviously, sign a document saying that they agree to this process and they say who they are. And then that whole transaction, it's recorded. And then it's sent to both the lender as well as to title, so that we now have a record and a memorialization of the actual transaction and it occurring. This is wonderful from a standpoint where you don't have to go to the title office. If somebody is in the case, I mean, just think if we were in Italy or in Spain or another country where there was a mandatory lockdown, you couldn't leave the house, right? So it's critical to have these technologies in place, and I think it's something that's going to continue. So I think that's part of that. What we talked about with all of these processes, we spent a lot of time on covering Category 1 because it's so different, and as professionals, it's our job to make people feel comfortable, right? And now we're going to get into, from a buyer standpoint, let's talk about someone who's a little more romantic about the home buying experience. They can't open the country fast enough. They want to go out and, they're at the bars, they're at the restaurants, they're going to the pool, they're doing all sorts of things, and they want life to get back to normal as soon as humanly possible. So again, it's not us to judge, it's us to make people feel comfortable. And a key piece here is making sure that the professionals that serve these particular clients, they also feel comfortable. We don't want anybody, at least personally, I don't want anybody going beyond what they personally feel and their own comfort zone in being able to help somebody with the transaction. So James, and let's talk about, because you and I, we had a discussion about this where you had a buyer that, wanted to go to as many open houses as possible, but you kind of hit the brakes, right? You said, no, you've got to follow the right procedure. So let's talk about that with that Category 2 buyer.
Yeah, so Ron was referring to a buyer that wanted to go look at houses, and I wouldn't say they refused, but they weren't really motivated to get pre-approved. And this was kind of very early on when COVID, and I don't know that we still understand how people get it. There's all kinds of theories and philosophies, but late March, someone wanted to go see some houses, and I tried to work with them. I text them the procedures that our company had put together and how we would go about doing a showing. And it was basically, I would go out into the home, they would stay in their car, I'd go in, turn everything on, open everything up, then I would leave the home, then they would go in wearing these protective devices. They weren't really too interested in doing that part of it. And then I also said that our company is requiring that you get, you have a pre-approval letter to make sure that you can afford to buy the home. And I wanted them to feel comfortable going to see the property, but there again, the seller also has requirements of how they want to show the home. So I think it is, most people seem to be flexible and, okay, well, if that's what they require, I understand. I respect their level of protection. It doesn't really matter to me per se. And but it came to this non-pre-approval, and they were very flippant about it and didn't want to do it. And I said, well, I really need you to get pre-approved. And they said to me that, if that's the requirement for me to go see a house, then I guess we won't go look at the house. And I said, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but yes, that is the requirement currently for us to go out and show properties, is that we're only working with folks that are pre-approved just because of the level of risk. So my level of risk was a lot lower of a threshold than hers particularly was. And so the two didn't match up. But, I think to protect me and my family, I was asking for certain things, and this particular client was not interested in doing that. So it didn't turn out very well, but that's going to happen. And I think we all need to feel comfortable in our own skin and doing our jobs. And I didn't feel comfortable at that point, and so that's why we didn't end up getting the showing. So, but I think most people overall are flexible and understand that there are these different categories of people and how they feel about, face-to-face, discussions or just meetings. And so, for the most part, I think everyone is respectful of everyone's concerns or their level of concern, whether it's not really anything they're concerned about or something that they're very concerned about. So that's my point of view.
I appreciate that. Sparkles, talk to us a little bit. Let's say you've got a buyer. No way are they going to do a video inspection. They want to attend the inspection in person. They want to, follow that particular home inspector, be right over their shoulder. What is the minimum procedure that you have someone who wants that traditional home inspection experience, but you're also not putting your own people at risk?
Absolutely, Ron. Thanks. A lot of what James said, it's kind of on the same page. It's hit or miss. Everybody is so different in what they're expecting and what they're requiring as far as entering homes and safety precautions and all of that. So it's a judgment call on a lot of it. But when you schedule an inspection with us, we have our safety protocol that our scheduling department goes through. They highly encourage you not to attend the inspection. And if the buyer says, well, I really I need to be there, I want to be there. Okay, well, we do have safety precautions that we do require of you. Require that you wear a mask. We have booties that you can put on. We have hand sanitizer, and we ask that you have gloves. So we do absolutely everything that we can to encourage them not to attend, because we will give them that video inspection. However, there are those that will they just have to be there. A lot of people are very, sensitive people in the sense that they need to physically feel how the home reacts to them when they walk in the door, and they need to just see things with their own eyes. They're just very visual people and just have to kind of feel things out. So we do have a couple of those. Again, we make sure that everybody wears all of the safety precaution and all of that. There are sellers who don't want anyone coming into their house other than the inspector, and we have to abide by those rules because it is the seller's house ultimately. So sometimes we do have to turn people down and say, sorry, we won't do the inspection for you if you're going to be there, because the sellers won't allow it. We're the only ones allowed in the house, so we can give you that video inspection. We're going to give you that no matter what, but you can't be there. And so it's just kind of hard. It's just kind of a judgment call per situation.
Got it. No, I appreciate you sharing that. Now, Jamie, at the closing, let's say you have someone who's very romantic, and, romantic meaning they remember the good old days. And for them, closing on a home, it brings up good feelings, going to the title office, holding up that big giant key, that you guys provide. All the agents, they want to get a big group hug with everybody involved. Can they do that now? Can they go to the title office and take their picture?
Our office. They can absolutely come in. They can come to the office. There are common spaces that we can sign them if they feel comfortable being in a certain space. Our closers certainly all have masks that they will be wearing. We're happy to bring keys or little pictures of, the foam cutouts of houses or whatever else they would like to take pictures in front of. There are really great apps now that kind of superimpose those things on. So we've got those as well. So we've got a Chicago title agent. Let me put a little plug in for that. Great calculators, and has all kinds of really neat screens that you can add. But yeah, they can absolutely come in. I was actually just up at the office before this call, and I would say there were 6 or 7 folks, last day of the month. So 6 or 7 folks either sitting in their cars or waiting outside of our office, socially distanced, obviously. And they were just waiting to sign. So there are plenty of in-person signings still happening every day. And today will be a really, really busy day at the office. So they can absolutely come to the office or choose any of the other options. We're happy to accommodate whatever best fits them. So bring on the romancers, I guess.
There you go. There you go. And, I mean, from my perspective, 99 out of 100 borrowers, I'm meeting with them over the phone or through email. I could certainly set up a Zoom call. It would be a very rare opportunity for someone to want to come to my office to meet with me face to face. Personally, I'd feel it would be a little awkward me wearing a mask as a banker. It's kind of that, reverse psychology. So, would I do it? It would be on a case-by-case basis. But would I feel comfortable? Probably not. That's just my personal feeling about it. Everybody is entitled to have their opinion about things. Now, let's shift it to sellers. So again, we're talking about category 1. So we're starting with category 1. And you've got somebody who, they have their home, they're putting it on the market, they've got their Matterport, they've got their website, they are not allowing anybody inside. Betty, tell us a little bit about with Epic Photo, is it the seller that contracts with you? Is it the agent? Do they, we were talking a little bit about licensing. They don't own the photography. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. A lot has changed in the last few months. Normally it'd been the agent that contacts us only. We would very rarely would you ever have a homeowner reach out to us that's trying to sell their home, whether it be sell by owner or with an agent. It's just maybe one a year. Surprisingly, we've had several for many reasons. One, maybe because their agent doesn't understand the importance that they feel of being invaded upon in their privacy, and they don't want to do a Matterport. So the homeowner is reaching out to us to supersede that and say, I want a Matterport. I want a virtual tour because my agent or whatever the circumstances may be does not understand the importance of that. So they're hiring us directly. So it's just a different shift entirely of who's calling and who's not calling. Standard, it would just been the agent. Now we're not seeing that. And the homeowner by all means can call us. We are not just exclusively for the agent. We are here to help everybody and for everybody to feel safe and secure in whatever they're wanting to be. We certainly treat each one of them by their preference and their respect. So is it just the agent? No. But going back to licensing, you and I spoke about this the other day. It says on our website, and there is copyright laws for all photographers, whether it's real estate, in residential or commercial photographers such as us, or whether you're just taking a shot of a tree and you put it out there. If that is your shot and somebody takes that off of Flickr without your information being tagged to it, that's a copyright law. So not that we're going to go down that road, but our website, as well as many other photographers in the metro area, has that specifically on our site and their site that we own the copyright laws. So what that means is somebody such as James calls us, says, I want my house photographed or whatever the case may be. We provide all those photos for him to use for his marketing purposes, the same as what a homeowner would use or anybody else. So that's where it goes back to the copyright licensing laws. So you're leasing them from us is an easy way to put that. I don't know, but that going down a whole nother technical dive and stuff. I don't know we want to go down there right now, but anyway, that's kind of how that goes.
I really appreciate that. And James, when you've got somebody that says, okay, I have to sell my home, and I can't have anybody come in, and I need you to sell this home under these circumstances. Walk us through that process of how you're going to advise them and how you're going to list their home.
So in early April, we were in the lockdown or the shelter in place. And again, back to that, the counties had requested or required everyone shelter in place. We weren't quite determined by the state to be an essential business yet, but we still had clients that wanted to sell their home. They needed to sell. They were moving to another location for a job, and they needed to put their house in the market. So what I was able to do was I had the homeowner take photos of the property and email them to me. I then had emailed to them my listing presentation, and this is a PDF, about a 20-page PDF that kind of goes through the sales process. And the one that they really want to know about is the marketing plan, and then obviously the price. And so in that listing presentation, that I would send that to them, several hours before our scheduled call, and we would do a Zoom call, or we would do FaceTime call, and I would go through the listing presentation with them. They were at their house, I'm at my house, and so we basically did a virtual listing presentation. And that was helpful to them. They felt more comfortable doing that. And so then I brought Epic Photo Group in to take the photos of these properties. They were very respectful of the folks' need for safety, and a lot of times the homeowner may not have even been in the home when we did those photo shoots. There are ways today that there weren't 10 years ago to do, to list the home. Before, you definitely had to go in, you had to measure the rooms, you needed to walk through to get a feel for the home. And I would send, and then also part of my services, I provide a home stager for all of my listings. And again, the home stager would go in to the property with or without the homeowner, write the report and send it to us both electronically. And the home stager can also look at the property without actually being in the property. So they could, if the homeowner would, with their phone, go through and take FaceTime video of the property. What Ron is showing right now is the Matterport of one of my listings that did sell. And so this is the result of a photo shoot that Epic Photo has done. And so this goes back to those buyers being able to come in, or the seller saying, hey, I don't want anyone in my home. How can we get this home sold? And so using this product, Matterport, that Epic Photo provides, we're able to show properties to consumers. And again, they get the ability to look at the home as fast or slow, or they can zoom in or zoom out, or look up or look down or look around. So it really provides the buyer a comfort level that they really can get a good feel for the home. And it helps the seller feel comfortable that, we're not going to have a lot of people in the house touching stuff. And that's where everyone's concerned. There's a certain set of people that are concerned about that. And certainly we have all age groups of people that buy and sell homes. And certainly there are a category of people that are more susceptible to getting COVID, and their survival rate is much lower. And certainly these folks will feel more comfortable having these new services available to help sell their property. So anyway, so we're able to now list homes without actually going into the homes if it's more comfortable for the seller to do that. There's just a little bit more work on their end. And so that is kind of where we're at today.
James, I really appreciate that. This home is almost perfect with one exception. And, I stopped at this particular slide, and they seem to be Packers fans. So being from
you don't
Chicago,
like the Green Bay?
Being a Bears fan, I personally would buy this house, but you never know. That would be the first thing that I would change. It would just be Walter Payton jersey and.
That stuff can be removed, Ron.
Yeah, I understand.
It's not permanent.
But that's something you can do in virtual
That's not attached to the house.
Right. That's what you can do with virtual staging. You can just put in, substitute the jersey, and it's like, oh, this is my dream house.
It's amazing what virtual staging can do, really.
Yeah, exactly. So we talked about category one. Now let's talk about that second category. You've got somebody that, they have that home, that pride of ownership, and, they don't really want to jump into all those newfangled tricks with, online this and online that. They think the home can sell itself. James, what do you do with somebody that says, I want you to take 3 pictures from your iPhone and I want you to throw it on the MLS, but I want you to hold as many open houses as possible. What are you advising people from that standpoint?
So again, going back to in April, our company was not even allowing open houses. They weren't allowing broker opens. And then it had a list of requirements for any showings. We kind of talked about that. Things have loosened up a bit, and things are a little bit more, open. We now, in fact, I just held the first broker open in Southlake since we went into shelter in place in mid-March. So that was last night, and we had what I felt was pretty good attendance. Broker opens are kind of it's a roll of the dice. Sometimes you get no one, sometimes you get a lot of people. It all depends about the property. I actually had 2 listings, and I think 1519 Meeting Street is one that you might have pulled up on my website, but we also have 1513 Meeting Street that we had both of those broker opens. Now, 2 different clients. 1519, they're trying to limit any barriers to showing the property and having people come in the home to see it. So they didn't really have, the only thing that they were asking was people to hand sanitize. Other than that, they were letting our brokers, our other agents come in and look at the property. Now, 1513 on the other end, they were asking for booties, for masks, and for gloves to be worn while the agents were in the home at the broker open, looking at the property. So we had 2 extremes for one broker open. So everyone was, gathering around and walking through the property. They did hand sanitize, and the other one, we all look like we're about to do surgery. So that's kind of, we're just trying to appease our clients and be respectful of their requirements and their level of safety that they would like to have for their own property. So I have been on listing appointments where folks wanted me to come into the home. They wanted me to walk through the listing presentation with them, face to face across the dining room table. And I did accommodate them. I did wear masks and gloves while I was making the presentation. I did social distance at the other end of the dining room table, and I had them sit at the other end of the dining room table. So, I'm trying to be as accommodating as possible, but respectful for my own safety. And so, it's just, we're having to make adjustments to how we do things today. And so we have to be flexible, but also be respectful for people's level of safety that they want. So, but again, that's what's going on today with listings and getting homes on the market.
No, I appreciate that. And, what's interesting is, and we're going to, looking at category 3, right? So this is the group of people from a buyer or a selling perspective where they respect the local laws. They're kind of like you, James, and maybe some others on the call, where you wear masks to the grocery store, you abide by the local rules, and you're okay with that, right? And life goes on from that standpoint. But if you're a seller right now and you have a home to sell, there's something appealing about the fact that where you can bring in someone like Betty that goes in, does a full photo shoot. They put together the property website. They do the video tour. They do all the Matterport. They get the home show ready, and they create this beautiful online library of all of this great content. And then people can go in and they can visit the home. And, you know, I noticed in that Matterport, you can actually have call outs, right? So it talked about the pot filler. It talked about, backsplash. It was amazing. Like, that's great stuff. Like, agents, you know, not the ones on this call, but a lot of agents can't articulate those things when they're doing open houses. So to actually have that as part of your tool belt, it's fascinating. But to be able to show that home and have it from an online perspective, and then not have to inconvenience the seller where they don't have to leave the house, right? They don't have to leave the house for buyer opens or broker opens or, you know, any of those things. They can just wait till the offers roll in. And if you've got somebody that's serious and they've made an offer, then you can go ahead and accept that offer, and then you can allow them into the home to do that final walkthrough before starting the whole process. So, you know, there is a lot to be said where you've got somebody that is either susceptible to COVID or just from a convenience standpoint where they just want to list it and use these virtual tools to be able to sell that home while they're living there, and then be able to, from there, draw people in from a virtual standpoint, walk through the home virtually, and then make all of those offers. James, I think, this is kind of getting from looking at it from a strategic standpoint. If you're no longer going to 31 open houses and showing people all of these homes, your time can be freed up, and now you're working with a lot more buyers and sellers, right? So from a real estate agent standpoint, if you're like me, where you're working virtually and you've got all these great tools, that really frees up your business and you can scale.
You know, I actually have a client right now that is concerned and wants to have a reduction in showings. So I gave them a couple of options. I said, okay, I've had success in the past where we have not allowed showings, but we have an open house, right? So the family leaves, and then I'm there, and then the buyers will come into an open house. I will ask them to wear booties and hand sanitize when they come into the property. It builds up some anticipation of the property. We've already gotten phone calls for this. Actually, Sunday, I have this house going to be open for the first time. We just listed it yesterday. And I said, hopefully from this open house that we're not allowing any showings until the open house, that we have this pent-up demand, this anticipation of this property coming on the market, and we'll get a good number of buyers to come out and look at the property. During that process, when people are seeing other buyers in the home, they go, whoa, this is a popular property. This is a really nice house. I might need to make an offer before that other guy does, right? So there's a little bit of strategy there, is to build up this, a lot of people want what they can't have or feel. If there's a fear of loss, then they will react. And so that's what I'm trying to encourage that. Now, and the reason I'm doing that is so that we can limit the number of showings on this particular property. So that if during the open house I'm able to get an offer or multiple, then we don't have to show the property beyond that open house. Hopefully, that's our hope, is that we're able to do that. Moving forward, they want me, let's say that we don't get an offer from the open house. The other option I gave to them was, what we can ask is the buyer's agent we would require that the buyer agent go back to the buyer and say, before we can schedule a showing of this home, the seller requires that you view the Matterport video and the photos most people go online and look at video and look at photos. Some people, very small percentage of people, don't. It ticks all the boxes. You know, it's the number of bedrooms and it's the price point and it's got maybe a pool in this particular situation. So they don't need to, they want to go actually see it in person, right? It meets all the other criteria. So a lot of people will come, but maybe they get there and it's too far away, or they don't like the neighborhood that it's in, or they don't like the drive up. Well, a lot of that you can't experience until you do those things. Or by requiring that the buyers look at the photos, look at the drone footage that we have showing the area, showing the neighborhood, then hopefully we've kind of filtered out some of those folks that will drive up to the home and go, nah, we don't want to see it because we don't like the neighborhood, right? So we're actually requesting that the buyer do a little more due diligence in making sure that this is a property that they're wanting to see. And it not only does it check all the boxes, but there really is no other reason that they wouldn't necessarily buy it, but until they walk in the home and they don't feel it. Like Sparkle said, you know, people have to feel the home. The home talks to them, right? These are these passionate, romantic folks that you talked about. The house has to talk to them. And in that case, then, okay, we've narrowed down all the other hurdles to possibly submitting an offer. But then if the home doesn't talk to them, then it just doesn't talk to them. And certainly that's a legitimate reason to not make an offer. But by requiring them to do all this other due diligence, hopefully we're limiting the showings for that particular property, and we're only getting buyers that have a true interest in that specific property. So that's how things are going today with this particular buyer.
Yeah, and I've seen that where you put in the notes when it comes to countering that the buyer must have either gone on Google Maps and driven the neighborhood, so that if there was a liquor store down the street, or if there was, you know, whatever, they actually could say, okay, you know, we're out of this thing because we don't want the tire center that's just down the block. Or they actually have included it in their overall food runs and that type of thing. And before we wrap up, real quick, Sparkles and Jamie, from a seller standpoint, Sparkles, you mentioned this. The seller can request that buyers cannot attend, right? The inspection.
Absolutely, yes. The sellers can absolutely request that no buyers attend the inspection. And again, you know, we have to abide by the sellers because ultimately it is their house that we are walking into. So luckily for the viewers watching this, everyone involved in this video has ways to combat the coronavirus obstacles, like virtual showings and virtual staging and mobile notaries and all of that, you know, the signings for title, coming out to your car, wearing masks and all of that stuff. The drones, I forgot, we also have drones. So Betty and I do have drone capabilities to also help combat that. So kind of helps make the sellers feel a little bit more comfortable that there's less contact coming into their homes, into their personal space, into their sanctuaries that they spend all this money and time creating for themselves to keep themselves alone and healthy. That being said, I forgot where I was just going with this.
No worries. Now, Jamie, if a seller needs to, we can come back to you, Sparkles, but I know but he has to run. But, you know, Jamie, from that sales standpoint, from a seller, they could also go and do the drive-through notary closing as well as mobile notary, right?
Absolutely. Certainly an option. Let me just touch on something though, because I've gotten asked this question a handful of times from real estate agents as far as restricting buyers from entering their property. There is a section in the contract that provides that the seller will provide the buyer reasonable access. So if you are wanting to limit and restrict the access to just inspectors or just particular people, that needs to be further delineated within the contract. Otherwise, you can't get under contract and then say, oh, no, I don't want, you know, the people that normally would come during that inspection period, or even throughout the course of the contract. You need to be real specific about that. If you have a seller who is on the kind of the far end of the spectrum and doesn't want a lot of folks in their house. So it can be done, but it's not just done as a matter of course according to the TREC contract. So just be real careful about that.
That's really helpful. That's really helpful. It's one of those things when you invite an attorney on the on the webcast. That's
words matter.
You get the straight answers. He doesn't just deliver donuts. He is a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with Jamie at Chicago Title, as well as all of the great professionals that are here with us today. So with that, I just want to wrap up. I really appreciate everybody's time and expertise, and if you could just one by one, let folks know how they can get in touch with you. So Betty, we'll start with you.
Hi, it's real simple. Just go to www.epicphoto with an F group.com. Call me. I'm in the book, on the web, whatever you call it. We don't have books anymore, do we? I'm dating my age there. We're super simple. Just, most people know how to get a hold of us. But thank you for everyone for this. And I'm the one that has to run. I couldn't do my job without the realtors, the inspectors, the title people, the banks, because we wouldn't be selling houses and we wouldn't be listing and selling houses. And I couldn't do my job if it wasn't for all of you guys. Stay safe. Be careful, and I've got to go. So I'm checking out.
Thanks, Betty. Really appreciate it. James, how can people get in touch with you?
Sorry, I had you on mute. You can reach me by my cell phone, which is 972-523-9740. My email address is James.Keoughan, Keoughan, at Alliebeth, ALLIEBETH.com, or you can go to my website at jameskeoughan.com. Ron, I really appreciate you allowing me to participate in this discussion, and hopefully I've brought some insight into the real estate process from a realtor's perspective.
We really appreciate your time, James, and expertise. Sparkles, how people can get in touch with you?
Hi, yes, thank you again so much, Ron, for having me on this panel. If you'll allow me to share my screen, I've got two quick slides. So I remember what I was going to say as far as seller's perspective. We do have kind of some ideas to help sellers figure out what to do while we're there for the inspection. So, like I said, this is their sanctuary. They feel safe there. They don't want anybody coming into their home. But they don't want to go anywhere because that's their sanctuary and they're trying not to contract the virus. So we came up with a quick, friendly list to help sellers have some ideas of what to do. You can take your family for a drive to get out of the house while we're there doing the inspection so that you don't have to be in contact with our inspector. You can schedule your weekly trip to the grocery store or your pharmacy or home goods stores. You can take a laptop or tablet to a takeout restaurant and watch a movie together in the car. You could go to a park. Hopefully it's a park that's not as occupied as some. But those are just some ideas to kind of help you feel safe and isolated while getting out of the house so that we can do the inspection without having that contact. As far as being able to contact us to schedule an inspection or just straight up ask us questions about inspections in general, we're here for you. You can find us at gshi.co. That's short for greensteinhomeinspections.com. Both of those websites work. Our phone number to schedule inspections or get a hold of us is 214-796-7707. And you can reach me at my personal cell, 469-422-0767.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. Jamie, how can people get in touch with you?
Hey, thanks, Ron. Thanks again for having us. And all of our office locations and everything are on the last slide of our presentation. But you can call my cell phone anytime. That's the one that I carry around with me all the time. It's 214-293-7510, or shoot me an email at jamie.walk@ctt.com. So there's all the information, jamie.walk@ctt.com. So thanks again, Ron. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And then finally, I'm Ron Bruno. I am with Guaranteed Rate. I can be reached on my cell phone, which is area code 310-804-8243. My email address is ron.bruno@rate.com. And my website is rate.com/Ron Bruno. It's kind of simple like that. Thank you all so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And everyone stay safe. Have a great weekend. Oh, there's little baby Kate. Take care, guys.
Thanks.